us and the United States is responsible when our government asks them, or not ask them, but tell them, this is what we need, and this is what we need now to survive.
Anyone who is in office and is not putting the shoulder to the wheel to address our energy crisis don't belong in office. Just say it like that, because that's our number one concern. If you can't help us with our energy, then what are you doing? Why are you there? That's my question.
Oh, okay, Roy. Carol says she's ready for some questions.
Yeah, let's get our first caller here. Good morning, caller. You're on Beyond Politics. Thank you for waiting and being patient as we work through that.
No problem. Greetings and morning.
Morning.
With your discussion now with this energy situation, we know, like you're saying, that Senator Russell proposed they put forward the Consumer Rescue Act. It's Rescue or Recovery?
Rescue
Act, yeah. And he, like Clara was saying, he didn't get a support from his colleague. We now see another Senator, Hansen, trying to do something about the LEAC, and again we're seeing the same stumbling block that she's not getting support from her colleagues.
Well, I just have to ask you, how do you determine that? Because I think that all the senators are supporting energy relief efforts. I don't know anything concrete to say that she's not getting support. So could you fill us and the audience in when you say that?
The point, okay, let me go back again. We started with Senator Russell. He didn't get his support.
Right. He had legislation.
And he wanted to do certain things to relieve the burden of the consumers, and the majority of the Senate did not follow him.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And the same thing with Hansen. What I'm saying is, let me finish. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is that we have 15 senators. Most of them ran as a campaign to deal with addressing the LEAC when they were running. And we still have that same the problem with high cost of LEAC, with the LEAC every month, every whatever so period it goes up, and no legislation right now is in place to buffer the blow to the consumers. That's what I'm saying. Nobody's doing anything about it.
Well, I think that's a little strong when you say nobody's doing anything. You got to remember the difference in 2008 to now. 2008, the WAPA Consumer Act was proposing government spending. It would be hard to propose that now with an 8% cut and talk about imminent firing. So we have to take a different tack, and I think that's what both those senators are doing. In terms of legislative support, in 2008, the WAPA Consumer Act died in committee. In 2011, the Senator's excise tax resolution was passed. It was joined with a resolution from Senator Nelson, and that is, in fact, Senate support. I mean, they passed it, and it's being pursued.
Talking about specifically support
legislation for the consumers and for protect the consumers from the high cost of energy.
Right, and I'm saying in terms of support for any other senator, what legislation? Remember, their job is legislation. What legislation has been advanced that's not getting supported? I mean, that's how you measure whether or not the Senate is in support.
How I measure it is like I'm not in the legislature. I'm not playing politics. How I measure it is how it affects my pocket. If the LEAC is constantly rising, then there is no measure stopping the rise of the LEAC, and therefore I'm saying nobody is stopping and protecting and helping the consumer, just like you just mentioned about island dairies that's closing down, and the primary reason they're closing down is because of the high electric bill. And you just spoke about Armstrong. I was in Armstrong yesterday speaking to him about the same thing, and he said he's holding on by his fingernail, meaning that his WAPA bill is killing his business, and if he doesn't get help, HELP, from the legislature, he going down the road to close down too. And as you know, that's an icon in our territory as far as business is concerned. So I'm saying we could talk about all this signing on as legislators, but when it comes down to it, the dollars and cents part of it, which all the senators are not doing anything to stop the LEAC right now from rising and reduce it. And that's what I'm saying. My next point is, This conference that Ms. Burke went to, what is the purpose and results of that conference other than the gasoline excise tax? How is that going to, again, halt, stop, reduce our energy consumption and our high cost of energy in the Virgin Islands?
I going to take
and I know you're going to do that, but I just want to touch on, I'll just touch on a couple points. The Eden project now that you mentioned,
yes,
I was kind of skeptical about it from the time I heard it for this reason. 25 years from now, things going to happen.
Actually 14 years, but still too long. I agree with you, it's still too long.
14 years, sorry, I made a mistake.
Yeah, but it's still too long. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
And before anything happens, and they're looking at that time, in the 14 years projected into the future, 60% reduction. By that time, if we look at the pace, if we graph the layup and its rise, by that time, 60% ain't going to be a thing really and truly to help us, because by that time, our bill going to be so high that 60% going to be, from now till then, more than double. And we ain't going to really help us. My next point, so that somebody else will come on. There is a company in the United States, CNN did a report on it called Bloom Energy, BLOOM Energy. They produce fuel cells. They have a fuel cell technology, solid oxide fuel cell technology, where there is as a form of distributed power generation. And they saying that companies like Safeway, Walmart, big corporations like that are using their technology to be self-reliant and not have to be on the grid or depend on anybody to produce power for them. My concern is, why can't we look into this technology? And since we got people in the Senate President office listening to what I'm saying here now, why can't you please look into this so that we can probably get this technology to WAPA, and they can apply this technology and help reduce our electricity? Because if Walmart, Safeway, and others can do it, and I'm talking about self-reliance as far as energy production for a company, then the same thing can apply for an authority. Let's move into this situation. And my last point is, one individual is always saying that the senators created the Public Services Commission. The Public Services Commission is woefully underrepresenting the people of the territory as it pertains to the high cost of energy. The senators need to look at or dismantle the Public Services Commission because it's not working for us. And just like how the Senate President Russell wants to look at the constitutional situation now by including the senators, do the same thing with the Public Services Commission and bypass them, or reshuffle the Public Services Commission and make it also work for the people. So we need legislation for the people to buffer the rise and the impact of this ever-increasing layout. We need a Public Services Commission to be redressed to see how really and truly why they don't work for us, but they work for us, either WAPA or a private company. And we need immediate action by all the senators, not just Senator Russell or Senator Hansel, as it pertains to this layout, so that we can get reduction. Because from the time we started our organization with the ratepayers, which is around 2004, 2005, every single year they tell us it's going to be 2 to 3 years before we get any real help with this layoff. And every year they keep having the same line, 2 to 3 years, 2 to 3 years. Now we're in 2011, and they're still telling us 2 to 3 years before we get any relief.
Or in some instances, 14 years. Imagine that.
Right. So our senators is the one who is not acting. They're not acting as a collective body. We got people going up to the states talking to people in the states about this situation with the highest cost of energy in the territory. The Insular Department came down here. The Insular came down here. I testified in front of them. They have reports after reports about our problem, and they are not acting. Again, our delegate ain't doing what she's supposed to do. So, where is the help for the consumers, the ratepayers? Thanks for the time. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
And let's put in some action instead of this talking every single year.
As always, thanks for the call.
Thanks.
Okay, quickly, Roy. You know, the WAPA Consumer Act and where we at right now. When they had the hearing done at the legislature, 4 people showed up. That's to show you how serious people was at that time. And they did not understand what's going to hit us later. When you listen to certain radio show, back then people were listening to the what they call the guy Roger Morgan, who had an issue with certain peoples in this community.
Issue with Senator Russell.
Yeah. And when you follow these kind of people, you will end up in these type of situation. When, I mean, the groundwork that we did, we actually felt that our heart was into this WAPA Rescue Act. We walked the whole of Christiansted to every single business. And in front of our face, they said, yes, they're going to come to the hearing and testify with the bills that they had to pay. And behold, 4 people show up. But just the other day, you had about 200 walk down the street with foil. Ain't make no impact. But that would make an impact. And that's where you have to make the impact at the legislature or at the government house.
Well, that's why we have the resolution. Let me just say in response to the last caller's assessment, this resolution was sponsored by both Senators Russell and Nelson. But in all fairness, it does reflect the position of the Virgin Islands legislature.
Yes.
So when something moves forward, it has the support of all senators.
Yes,
So
voted, in the affirmative.
So, I mean, you have a point person, so to speak, who is moving it forward. But, I mean, you can't have too many cooks in the soup at the same time. I mean, we're moving it forward, and it does reflect the position of all the senators.
Yeah,
so I don't want that to be
I want to
diminished.
answer his question about the PSC and then about the DNC. The legislature, in its wisdom, established the PSC as a regulatory body for utilities, to which WAPA is our electric utility. And the way it's been constructed, it provides for an ex officio member from the legislature, who today happens to be Senator Alicia Chucky Hansen. Now, the issues to which the caller spoke about, its failure to protect the interests of the people, to me, those are the type of issues that the senator sitting there should be able to garner and bring back and initiate any prospective changes that she believes should be forthcoming, and through legislation, sponsor legislation to get the support of her colleagues to make sure that these issues, these salient issues, are adequately addressed. So that's why there's a space on there for an ex officio member of the legislature. Quickly, with regards to the DNC, one of the reasons and the primary reasons that the DNC was sought after in this instance with regard to the return of the gasoline excise tax, don't be fooled. Don't think that politics don't have anything to do with this. Politics have everything to do with it. And we're asking the federal government. And this is a national political organization at the highest level. And it carries significant weight.
Let's take a caller. He's been real patient. He or she has been very patient. So, good morning, caller. Thanks for holding on so long.
Pleasant good morning. I have been listening, and I didn't hear anyone mention if delegates to Congress, Donald Christensen, give any input. I know it's obvious that she didn't sign the resolution, but
she's not a member. She's not a member.
Right, I understand that. But any input, because I have a letter by the delegate. It's dated June 11th, and there's some interesting statements that I would like to read a couple lines, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
It says, "It is important for me to caution that under current political and economic conditions, it is entirely